U.S. is very intent on making countries choose sides, choose their side. And the Chinese are not interested. So recently I've been thinking about this, and I said, look, if you refuse to choose sides, you're actually choosing China's side, because China's worldview is that we don't choose sides. If you want to protect and preserve the unipolar world, then you have to choose sides. So we don't want to, but tactically speaking, this kind of environment is great opportunity for neutral countries, for Malaysia, for a country like Malaysia, for instance. And you recently gave this very important speech about semiconductor industry. I noticed because, when you have this kind of, it's a huge industry, one of the biggest industries in the world. When you have this kind of fierce struggle, a country like Malaysia could play a positive, constructive role in continuing the open flow of technology if it could remain neutral.
That's right. I mean, now is a different world, because those days we were a bit afraid because the pressure is so strong that you must take the side of the West, otherwise you'll be punished. But now we say, well, look, we engage with both, we are friendly with both, and with this, for example, Germany talks about de-risking. So they will contact China, but then they will use the third country and say, okay, you are welcome. So we are fortunate in that sense to become a hub of semiconductor industry. We come up with the chips, and but when they start imposing, we say no, we can't.
That's right.
We are essentially a neutral country, and America has been an important trading partner all these decades. China is an important strategic partnership now that we are experiencing. Many of my colleagues ask, are you sure the Chinese are not imposing or insisting, including issues South China Sea? I say, I don't know about other countries. Of course, I engage with them, but we have not had a problem. So I can't. Why do you expect me to anticipate a problem? And yes, there are problems. We have problems with all our boundaries, our neighbors. But these are minor issues that we can resolve. I was with Prime Minister of Singapore.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, and we still had some, issue, water, FIR, the flight, and then maritime boundary. But we are still great friends and trying to talk out and resolve this.
I think that attitude, that outlook is constructive even in, say, South China Sea, for instance. There are many differences, but you don't have to get into a problem. But we do have the outside power, the U.S., being very active in this. So how do we deal with that? I mean, it's in our neighborhood, it's in our region. We have an extraordinarily promising future. All the countries, most countries in the region, most ASEAN countries, and China and India are developing very well in our own ways. Yet we have these simmering tensions, but then that's heightened by geopolitical struggles, especially with big powers and from the outside. So how would Malaysia, how would ASEAN look at this and deal with this?
Well, our policy is clear. There's no simmering tensions, and some contentious claims, we say, okay, we discuss bilaterally or multilaterally within ASEAN. I mean, that's been the position. We set standing notes, complaining here and there, but it's just a minor which it does not in any way cast, or make things more difficult or create this sort of a distrust. Does not. Okay, some countries in ASEAN start having that those issues. Our position is you have to negotiate among friends. And there's no reason why an outside power, if I have a problem in Singapore, I don't want a third party to be involved. There's a border issues with Thailand or with Brunei, they let us resolve amicably among ourselves. Even in the issue of Myanmar, we said there's a need for 5-point consensus. The neighbors can start talking quietly, but ASEAN as a whole will take that position. We prefer that than getting an outside force to impose any condition.
Yes, good. And ASEAN, of course, is a very robust, coherent global South institution. And then now we have, I mean, how do you see global South institutions evolve? I mean, we have BRICS now. We have the AIIB, the financing institution. When is Malaysia going to join BRICS, by the way?
We have indicated as a
Yeah.
policy that we are.
Yeah.
We have made a decision. We are placing the formal procedures soon. But as far as Global South, we're completely committed.
Yes.
And I'm working well with President Lula in expanding this sort of issue, or policy. We're just waiting for the final results, and the government in South Africa.
Yes. Another question that people talk about is, so for the first time, I think, recently, the countries of Global South trade more with each other than we trade with the Global North collectively. So there's so much going on amongst our countries and trading and economic activities. Why are we still doing it with the US dollar? Why? President Lula was in Shanghai last year, and he gave the talk at the New Development Bank. And he was very passionate. He says every night he goes to bed, he can't figure out why are we using the US dollar to trade amongst ourselves. You were finance minister. It's ridiculous. But we have to pay financial ransom to this. How can we, what are the step-by-step way that the Global South could band together and gradually be independent of an outside financial system that's imposed on us?
I have officially called for the setting up an Asian Monetary Fund.
Yes.
And we are now in the midst of serious discussions. But meanwhile, for example, with China, we have crossed the 20% of the total trade, which is quite a big volume for us, in local currency, which means there is that possibility.
Yes.
Because otherwise, say our currency ringgit, it doesn't make sense. Inflation is low,
Yeah.
growth is high, investment is huge. Last year was the highest ever recorded in the country, and still
Yeah.
the currency is being attacked. Okay, the last few weeks was much better, more comfortable, but you mean it does not make economic sense. It runs contrary to basic economic fundamentals.
Yeah.
Why? Because of the dominance of one currency, completely alien to the system and irrelevant in terms of economic activity, but purely because it is used as international currency. So I say, well, we cannot discount. There is still role for the dollar, but we can reduce substantially the impact on our economies if we use our own currency in the trade, and hopefully can mature and forge a new understanding in terms of Asian financial system.
So how would this Asian Financial Monetary Fund work?
Well, certainly it's premature, but the
Yes.
staff in the central banks have been working on it. They have started an initial phase is to use local currencies in bilateral trade. 20%, for example, up to now with China, about 18 to 20% Indonesia and Thailand.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good start, But I think there is still room for improvement, that we enhance this sort of collaboration, and then start having players on board. Of course, people say, well, we don't want China to dominate. I say, let them have an independent setup, professionally run, and I think China's role is key to ensure the success of this fund.
Yes, I think that's another thing that we need to kind of so China obviously is a big participant in all the stuff in Global South, and just by sheer size, it's intimidating. It's because it's just big, and that some other people may perceive that as a threat, and the U.S. is doing all it can to making sure other people think it's a threat.
You know, they have not read history. I mean, I'm a student of history.
Yeah.
We had a Malacca kingdom hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
Who had engagement, very active engagement with China. All our legendary stories and historical texts talked about various trips to China. Talk about Cheng He, Admiral Cheng He visiting Malacca 5 times, I think.
Yes.
So there was no history or episode of war being declared or colony being set up. Contrary to our experience with the British or Vietnam and the Philippines with the Americans or Indonesia with the Dutch. So I think history tells a different story. And now you are creating this fear-mongering because you think that it is a strong neighbor. Of course, China is much stronger now economically. But you talk about 500, 600 years ago. It was a strong force economically, militarily. I mean, I think it was 1451, which is considered to be the major armada unheard of in the world. So it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But was it used for military purposes? No.
Right.
So I just answer them from history. For the last 1,000 years, nothing happened.
Yeah.
What makes you think the next 50 years something great is going to happen?
Yeah.
Now, for the last few hundred years, a lot happened with the West.
Yes.
Almost all our countries were colonized.
Yes.
So you just look at history. Oh, they say, oh, that's the past. Then, accept it and move on.
That's what I try to tell Westerners. You know, our countries, Malaysia, China, we have different. Our countries are not like them. You know, both of our countries developed very fast, tremendously in the last decades. Malaysia, since independence, I mean, this was amazing story. A much smaller country, of course. I think at the time of Malaysia becoming independent, you had 60, 70% people living under abject poverty line. Now it's negligible. Amazing accomplishment. Okay, we created all this development, all this prosperity, without invading, colonizing a single country. Look at what they did through industrial revolution, through industrialization. You know, so it's different. It's different, and that's the narrative that the global South needs to band together and tell ourselves.
Probably their history books does not tell this sort of story,
right.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's why I always quote this Palestinian Arab scholar Edward Said.
Said, yes.
Yeah.
Orientalism. Yes.
Yeah, Orientalism, and the small article in his critique of Huntington's Clash of Civilization.
Yes.
He said there's no clash of civilization, but there's a clash of ignorance.
Yes.
I mean, it's very apt description. That's essentially a problem. They know, we talk about history, about culture, about reality. I mean, you can't defend the sort of argument, except out of prejudice. Yeah, and a condescending attitude towards the other.
Yes.
You know, again, you mentioned Orientalism. This again, but about the other. The other cannot be right.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very exciting time.
Yeah, I think we should organize a small symposium on this.
Yeah, we should do this kind of, I mean, there are a lot of policy forums.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a lack of place for people to engage in deeper discussions.
Yeah, it's true.
And that could look further ahead or further back and connect the dots and conceptualize different things. I mean, that's what we really need because the Global South needs its own fundamental narrative, its own fundamental set of ideas. That's what's lacking, I think. And
you're right. I think I've been involved quite a number of numerous discussions, but it is essentially just economic, financial, which is, again, as you say, fundamental, is critical.
Yeah.
But then you got to go deeper.
Yeah.
You know, but this was an argument. Then there is, to me, you forge real understanding through appreciation.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's why, I mean, you should lead such an effort, right? And also, that's why Islam is so important. Islam, being one of the world's major faiths, has fundamental values that could work with modern. You know, one of the biggest problems China has experienced in the last century is that we are forced to make a Faustian bargain when we accept the modern. It doesn't have to be this way. But we're being told that we had to do this, and to a large extent, we did do this. Unfortunately, okay, we're trying to pick it up. We're trying to get it back. You know, it's, our President Xi Jinping recently, if you see him again, you could talk about this. Is that he recently put forth this idea called the two fusions.
Yes, you know, to me, something really. Heartening. I mean, I really welcome that because rarely leaders don't talk about this.
Yes.
You know, this fusion of cultures or understanding, which I mean, I said it to the president himself.
Yes.
And I said, I'm never mind economics and finance and trade, but I am deeply touched. Because you talk about something which is not talked about by, except for some forums. But here is a philosophy, or set up for the country, and whereas it's a long way to go. I mean, I really feel, and in fact, this suggestion we may be working on this, with China, and I think because he's looking at Malaysia in that sense a bit unique.
That's right.
Relations with countries are all the key issue of digital and science, which is important. I'm not denying that or ignoring that fact. But then, which is something exceptional, which we will work with China, is that real, meaningful feast of civilizations.
Yes, we need more philosopher leaders in this world that could, but you also need to kind of endure and hang out for a long time. And it's kind of, you've been at this for a long time. But I noticed in Malaysia, this worries me a little bit. In the first 60 years of your independence, you had like 6 prime ministers.
Yes.
Okay. In the last 5 years, you had like 5 or something. I mean, so I mean, you gotta figure out a way to get your stability back, right?
Now it's fortunate.
Yeah.
It's very stable. I think. Because I used to joke, I know you want to prove yourself to be very democratic. Every man has the right to become prime minister. And so you have 5 in 4 years. But it will be disastrous for the country. But political stability is back, and that's why people, you can see this aggressive presence of potential investors coming in a big way. In the last 6 months, it is phenomenal. I'm pleased to say that. And from all parts of the world. Of course, mainly China, United States, Germany. But it is impressive. But through political stability.
Yes,
absolutely. And clarity of policies.
That's right. That's right. And with underlying principles and values. So, good. Well, before we finish this conversation, I want to ask you something personal. Shortly after you published this book, we know what happened. And it's been nearly 30 years. You've triumphed. But after 20, 30 years of unimaginable hardship, if you were to go back to 1998 and you face a younger Anwar yourself, what would you say to him? What advice would you give him to prepare for what's to come?
Well, I would say this, that we live for certain values in life, some principles. Of course, we want an easy way out. No one would want to endure such tribulations and hardship and insult and abuse, mentally, physically, which affect even your family, your close friends. But I think the develop a country, you must develop the individual. And the individual strength is, of course, material, physical, but also values, which is inherent in the spiritual understanding and upbringing. And I think that kept us strong. I mean, I happen to be known in terms of my sacrifices, but I think there are thousands and thousands of others who are not recorded, but who have done so much that enable me then to manage and survive. I don't think, given the situation now, that others will have to endure that sort of hardship. But notwithstanding, they have got to be told that life is not easy. If you want to affect change and undertake reform, you have to, of course, work harder, better discipline. You have to inculcate more understanding, better knowledge, better understanding not only for yourself and your faith, but others, than to make truly a great country and a great for humanity.
Yeah. So no regrets.
No regrets. I mean, to be honest, Eric, there were times I say, oh my goodness, could I have done it differently? Because especially when I think about the sufferings of my wife and my children, you see, and my close associates, they don't deserve this. But that at times do disturb me a bit. But when I meet them, rarely difficult, but I saw them and look at my wife, my children, nobody complained. They were just, so much love, affection, understanding, and support. And more important, the conviction, that yes, it's reformasi, Then I say, oh my goodness, then we should go. And then actually, so credit goes to them too, or in a sense more. Can you, I sometimes imagine, what if I have to endure a situation where there's a family breakup, then it will be unimaginable hardship.
Yes. Very important. Well, you still have a long way to go, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
No,
Prime
thank
Minister.
you.
It's been a pleasure and honor.
No, thank you.
I'm going to ask you to sign this book for me. It's
Oh,
the
thank
original copy from nearly 30 years
Oh,
ago that
good.
I read.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much. And this is my recent book.
Oh,
It's
thank
about
you.
comparative political systems and Chinese governance. And
Okay, I will have a look at it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.